Alright, so we're going to start the soldering process. Again, I don't anticipate this to take too long. But what you want to do is start from the bottom, as I'm doing here, because as you're going to be filling these things in, it'll be easier. Again, all these copper tabs are actually on the top, so you need to solder them on there. I tried with this iron to solder on to this metal piece itself, and it's impossible to do. It never heats up. What they do is, if you can see, they kind of lasered or something, or compressed it really hard with heat to get it to stick to the copper. But soldering your iron there, it's not going to be able to put any solder on. The solder won't even stick onto these. At least a lead-free one won't stick onto this metal. So you need to access this copper tab, and that's one of the reasons why you don't want to cut this tab. If you did, then well, you're gonna have to use some compression or mounting somehow, some other way. That's the reason why I didn't get rid of the copper tab, and it's very useful. So you want to start from the bottom. This one is actually your positive and negative lead. Again, at the end of the day, when you're done with one of these packs, it's gonna be positive here and ground here. And so those, go ahead and keep those electrical tape on. So what you want to do is, you're not going to put them on here first. You're not going to put this on yet. But what you're going to do first is to solder one of these wires onto here. And so go ahead and do that. And again, keep all the electrical tape so that you don't accidentally short anything. But just solder one on there, and then slip this through, and then go ahead and connect the other one. Because if you did solder this on here first, then it won't work. It won't work easy. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and do this right now. So it's going to be a little difficult to do just because it's all the way down there. I also recommend having like a sacrificial plexiglass to put it on the bottom, so that it doesn't eat into whatever the heat doesn't eat into whatever places that you put it on. But anyways, so what I'm going to do first is you need to put some solder onto the copper to begin with. So at this point, what I'm going to do is use this plexiglass, go ahead and slip it through in between, and this is where you're going to need your trusty double-sided tape here. So you would need 2. I would recommend more, but it's 2, and you'll probably need 2 because you're going to stack them. So total of 4. So like so, okay. Now let's see what I mean by sacrificial. You're gonna need one of this so it doesn't eat into your thing. Okay, so now ideally what you want to do is connect it here, but again, you need to have this thing in between to separate them. And so what I recommend is to put some on the bottom and some on the top. Electrical tape. What I mean by that is electrical tape. So for this side, not electrical tape, double-sided tape. For this side, since you're going to be accessing this later on, I recommend putting them on the top, like so. And it doesn't have to be too accurate because, again, this thing is going to be slipping in between. And on this side, go ahead and put them on the bottom. So bottom and top. If you need to spread it out a little bit, these cells can take a little bit of spreading if need be. And then just slip it through like so. Not too deep, because then it might cut into your battery pack. And that's about it. I mean, in terms of the separation, make sure to get good contact so that it doesn't fall off later on when you're riding. But that's about it. And then the rest part is just doing this, and then you're good for that first section. Same process again. Again, use your sacrificial plexiglass. Go ahead and put it right under it. And then iron. Alright, so this is the tricky part that I was talking about, where it melts, but then this wire moves up and down. So I'm gonna melt everything again. Use my trusty plier to hold it down. Anyways, so go ahead and do that, and again, your sacrificial one is gonna melt through these things. But there you go. There you have it. And so that separates these two. Now the next one is a half piece. So what I recommend is go ahead and put the half piece in beforehand, and then remove this. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is going to keep this half separated so that we can continue building the battery. So again, double sided tape. This time you only need one. You can do both sides if you want in this case, but I find it since you don't need it, and you probably don't want it. Again, it doesn't really matter in this case if you want to put it on the top or bottom. Let's just go ahead and put it in the bottom. Let's use gravity to help out a little bit here. Well, maybe I'll have to use something else. I'll probably use some on the top too. So I'll put one on the top. So I kind of use this solder to the edge, and so it's not giving me a lot of room to work here. It's bulging up, so I'm going to go ahead and put one on the top, and then squeeze everything together. As you can see, I'm keeping it all the way up to this tab separated. Okay, so now this is a pretty decent separation. But before we can get further, since this is going to be a little difficult to work with later on, I should have done this ahead of time. What you want to do is electrical tape everything, right? So I should have done this beforehand. Well, there you go. I have just split it right there. So go ahead and electrical tape these guys so that you keep them separated. Make sure it's cooled down before you do this, because you can really burn yourself. Alright, so the same process. But this time you're going to be using one of this. So one of these, so I'll do something like this. So in this case, you probably want to bend them. You can use your trusty plier to do so. So it looks like a step, sort of. And you do something like this, and you're good to go on that part. Yeah. So that's good enough contact. Let it cool down, and you're good to go. The next step is here to here. So before you put on your next plate, I would electrical tape this. The next plate would be like so, and then that's pretty much it. So alright, so that's pretty much it for one pack. You remember you got the connection here, so to recap, let's go ahead and make this work here. So the bottom one goes to here. These two are connected, and then this one here, and then so these are your positive and negative down here. So that's pretty much it, and these are all separated with, they're all double taped to the thing, so it's pretty good separation. Alright, so I've pretty much soldered all of these. So I built 3 of these already, and what I'm doing now is connecting them all together. So before we proceed any further, I want to show you the voltage. So I'm not sure you can see it here. Let me get rid of this. So that should do it. So it should be 15.665 volts. And if you do get that, then that means they're all connected, so I don't have to check individual ones. But anyways, so what I did here was I put 2 double-sided tape, and I put this plexiglass in between to separate them. And so yeah, so what I need to do now is connect this guy with this. I'm not sure you can see it, but there's the way it's gonna work out is this guy with this guy, and like so, and I place it down. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And again, you have to put this plexiglass on first. Again, you would use something like this, and you would just to make sure that nothing's shorted. I'm gonna connect them, and again, as you can see, it's nothing blowing up. So you would solder this in there, and then you're good to go for that part. Now it is a little difficult just because it's in here. So what I recommend is to solder this one first, the one that's bending down, because again, you can't solder at the bottom, you have to solder on the solder. You can do this one easy now, but then it'll be more difficult to put on the other one. So solder this bottom one first. So I'm going to go ahead and put this aside for now, because I decided this one will be the bottom. Alright, so you guys probably don't have the same setup as I do, but what I did was I put a dab of solder on the copper tab. I went ahead and used this mount to hold as best as I can this piece here that I'm going to have to solder, and then use my trusty soldering iron to complete the job. Now I would recommend using a plier to hold this, because I find it that it's quite difficult to actually get this properly right. So the best job, but hopefully it's good enough. This is the result. Let's move this aside here. So this is one pack that's already fully done, and again, I just remove the cells from those package from the Nissan Leaf battery. I did not remove these. I did not separate these individual cells. Therefore, I needed these plexiglass to separate them, to keep them, electrically separated. And again, these 3 volts, plexiglass isn't something that you should be using to separate electrical charges. They're not that great, but for a 3 volt, it's plenty fine. So anyways, I have all these here, and I can show you the wiring later on as I'm building the battery, but this is kind of a preview of what you're going to need to do. And all these wires, these colorful wires here, they're just balance wires, and eventually you're going to need them also to mount them, to balance charge this battery. And again, this is lithium manganese, so you definitely need to charge them, balance them. And these are the 2 leads here. I believe the red one's positive, this one's the negative. So if I connect these 2 and together, well, not together, but connect them to the controller, it should give me decent voltage. So to show you what I have here, negative and positive. It's going to be a little difficult because I electrical taped everything else. Not sure you guys can see it, but there it is. It's changing 46.9 volts, and that's from 12 cells at 3.9 volts each. So there you have it.